I realize that everything I say for the next 20 minutes is going to sound like a huge joke, but I promise I'm being serious. So sometimes when you're making games, you'll find that your game crashes, and that itself is not really unusual, that's just part of software development. And usually the reason for the crash is that there's something wrong in your code, and you should go and fix it and you can be on your way. But once in a while, you will find that your game crashes because of not something to do with your code, but because of something that the engine does incorrectly. And when that happens, you have found a bug in GameMaker. Hello all you crazy people out there, my name is Michael, I like wizards and dragons and making games, and today let's talk about how to report bugs in GameMaker. So during last Saturday's video, I actually did encounter a bug in GameMaker, and that bug is what you see on the screen right now. Basically, long story short, the game end event, if used in a script like this and not part of the game loop, will crash the game. And to boot, it'll spit out this very funny error message that basically informs you that GameMaker is trying to allocate an amount of space comparable to all of the RAM on the entire planet. Entertaining, for what it's worth. Usually bugs in the engine aren't quite that funny. And when that happened, I actually got excited because I've been looking for a nice bug to pop up that I could make a video on reporting for a while. And this is something that's exactly what I'm looking for. So firstly, the first thing we need to do is make sure that this is actually a bug in the engine and not just a bug that is caused by like something else in your code somewhere. This one is fairly simple. You can do some quick tests such as commenting out this code and running the game again and seeing if the game crashes, which it does not. Hey. And from this we can see a strong indication that the game end function is responsible for crashing the game, not something that should happen. The other thing that you need to do, I guess maybe I wouldn't say you have to do it, but it makes the process of Yoyo Games addressing the bug quite a lot simpler, is if you take the offending bit of code that's broken, if you take whatever feature is broken, if you go into a test experiment, and I'm going to create myself a new project, let's call this test game and breaks the game. And if I were to create myself a simple test project, this is an empty like GameMaker project, I can go and create myself a script, and the cause of this bug seems to be when you run it just in a script. And when you don't run it in part of like a game's step event or a game's something else event, usually you would do this in the step event. So if I were to go into script 1 and just type game end, and if I were to run this just like it is right now, without doing anything else, we can see that we have the same error, and there's nothing else in this project, there's nothing else that could be contributing to this. If you can isolate the bug in a test project like this, you can all but guarantee that it's actually a bug in the game end feature and not a bug in, for example, something else that you're doing in the game. Now, you don't always have to do this, but Yoyo Games generally appreciates it if you go to File, Export Project as YYZ, and from here, I'm just going to save this in my GameMaker folder, which is far too cluttered right now, but I'm going to say that's where it belongs. We can just export a compressed version of this project so that when we send the bug to Yoyo Games, they can see the error report. They'll be able to see the version of GameMaker we're using, and that's going to pop up down here. Test game end breaks the game. And now we can go to Yoyo Games' website to actually report this. So you can go straight to their website, and you can go down to the bottom to the report a bug section down here. The other thing you can do, I believe, is go to help in the IDE, and then there used to be, here it is, up at the top, report a bug. You can click on this and go straight to the bug reporting page. It gets you to the same place, it doesn't matter. You're going to need to log in for this. If you're not logged in, the only possible option is that you would support a bug related to not being able to log in, which isn't really relevant. I'm going to log in. You don't really need to see me do that. So, let's see, this is a lot easier now. I know everybody likes to hate on Opera and everything, but and the Opera accounts, but Opera's a single sign-on option makes this an awful lot easier than it used to be, especially if you had two-factor authentication turned on. And once we've done that, we can come back to the bug reporting page, and now we can select the issue that is relevant to us. So in our case, that would be, there's a bunch of options here. Report a problem in GameMaker is the one I'm looking for. What kind of bug is it? So in this case, this is going to be a bug with an in-game functionality, because this has to do with a runtime function. This has to do with something that happens after the game starts, basically. I'm going to say the bug with an in-game functionality is by far the most common thing to report, but there are sometimes things that you will notice going wrong in the other categories. If you look down here, you can see a list of the known issues at the current moment whenever you're going to do this that have been recently reported and fixed. If you want to do a quick search for something like game end or game underscore end to see if it's already been reported, you can do that, because I suppose if multiple people report the same bug, then that could increase the odds that Yoyo Games will look at it quickly, but you can still check for an issue that's already been fixed. I'm going to be honest, I'm sort of cheating. I happen to know that this bug is already fixed in the beta, but I hope Yoyo Games won't get too mad at me for reporting this anyway, because I do want to show this on video. And if I scroll down, I still need to report the bug. We can select our IDE version, which should be 22.9.151 stable. You can choose the beta IDE or the long-term stable IDE. And the runtime 22.9.1 is going to be our current runtime. If you're using GameMaker on Steam, which I'm not at the moment, you can check that box. We can write in a summary. I'm going to say game end called from a script. Let's try and spell our words correctly. So game end called from a script as opposed to while the game is running crashes the game. The description, if you... And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I believe I was able to narrow this down to game end being called from anywhere like before the game window appears, like during the create event. But... Alright, that's that. If the bug that you're trying to report is very long and elaborate, it might merit a lot more description than this. If anybody remembers when 2.3 was first coming out, there were some amazing bugs that appeared in the runner when 2.3 was first coming out that merited quite a lot of description. In the past, I have written several paragraphs for bug reports before if I found something that was really exotic. But this one is fairly straightforward. Areas this problem affects, we can search for like a category of the engine that this would fall into. I don't think there is anything related to like the game starting and finishing. There's nothing related to like views and cameras or compiling or PS5 or anything like that. So I'm just going to go with general/other in-game issue. Platform this problem affects. We've confirmed it on Windows. If you want it to be really thorough, you could test it on HTML5, you could test it on Ubuntu, you could test it on Opera GX or PS5, Switch, anything like that. But I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm not going to be going all in today. If you want, you can upload GameMaker's UI.log file. That can be found in this location. If I were to open up a Windows Explorer window, and go to that location, this is where GameMaker's program data is installed to. This is the UI log, and this can be helpful for debugging UI problems. This will not be of much help for us now. Later in this video, I will be reporting a second bug that I found, in which this might be a little bit more useful. We'll get back to that. You can upload this if you want for this issue. It's not really going to be super relevant, so I'm not going to. The compiler log, on the other hand, when you're reporting runtime bugs, you do have to upload a copy of the compiler log. And that is the fancy word for all of the text that appears in the console down here when you build the game. And unfortunately, GameMaker doesn't automatically save this anywhere. Might make reporting bugs a little bit easier if it did, but at least not that I'm aware, it doesn't save it anywhere. You can just select all in the console. You can copy it into something like Notepad, and you can just save it to wherever. Game end compiler log. And we can go and upload that file. This is going to be, I have way too much stuff in this downloads folder, but this is going to be game end compiler log and a sample project. Now, you don't have to do this, as I said, but it does help. If you did export yourself a sample project, which is going to be, for me, test game ending breaks the game.yyz, you can upload that as well. If there's any relevant screenshots, so if you find like a visual bug, if you find like draw sprite producing the wrong answer or something like that, or an issue with drawing text, draw like fonts and stuff, you can upload those as well. I'm not going to, because this is not a visual issue, but if screenshots would help it explain exactly what is going on with the bug that you're reporting, feel free. So, friendly reminder, Yoyo Games is based in Dundee in Scotland, so they are operating on UK time, GMT plus and minus 0. I live in the armpit of America of New Jersey. It is 5:42 p.m. for me, so it's going to be pretty late at night for them over there. And when I submit this bug, I would not expect to see an answer from them immediately, given that by the time they receive it, it will be rather late at night. Likewise, during weekends and holidays like Christmas and that sort of thing, generally don't expect to get an answer from these guys immediately. Some people have complained that they have bugs that they submitted months ago and never heard a response from. I personally never had that problem. I reported several dozens of bugs over the years, and at least not since like the GameMaker Studio 1 days. I can't say I've been kept waiting for more than a few days, maybe a week or so, on a bug. I would say for the most part, a few days is how long you can expect to have to wait to hear an answer. So everything looks good. You might want to read over everything just to make sure that you put it all in correctly. When we're done, you can submit. Like I said, this is a bug that I happen to know is already fixed. I hope Yoyo Games doesn't get mad at me for doing it again, because I want to show people how to do this. When that's finished, it'll say thank you. You will receive an email about the bug report information. And with that, we're done. So there is another bug that I would like to report. And likewise with the last one, I do happen to know that this has already been fixed in beta, but it happens to be a bug in the IDE, and that's going to be a little bit different from a bug in the runtime, so I want to show it anyway. And that happens to be if I were to go into a project which is well underway, such as WizardArks, which happens to have a couple different configs. And if I were to go and, let's say, click on another one, then GameMaker is going to take a moment to think. It's going to analyze the project for, I believe that's mostly to do with Feather and the IntelliSense. And then we can be on our way. We'll be running the game on a different set of configuration settings. However, if you go and rapidly click through the list of config values before it finishes analyzing the first time, the IDE will freeze. And there's nothing you can do after this. I'm clicking the mouse. I'm clicking on the IDE, and it's not responding in any way, shape, or form. I can't collapse this. I can't collapse the config menu. I can't click on anything. I can't click on anything in the asset browser, in the tabs over here, in the code editor, in the console. You can click on, obviously, the minimize button, and the game window will minimize, or the IDE, rather, will minimize. But if you click on the exit button, the "Are you sure you want to exit" sign will pop up, and the game will just freeze here. The editor will just freeze here, and you can't do anything. And from here, you don't really have a choice but to kill it with Task Manager, or something of that nature. Now that I've done that, Task Manager has frozen, which doesn't seem like a good sign. Task Manager crashed while I'm making a video about reporting a bug. That's amazing. Alright. So when it comes to replicating this, this can be a little bit of a challenge. This is something that in a small test project is going to be harder, because I can't have spaces in a config name, can I? Because in a small project, it takes much less time for GameMaker to switch configs if you swap between them, and I can't click fast enough for it to get caught in between the action of switching. So this is a case where this is something that's really hard to create a test project for, unfortunately, and I really probably should just submit the entire project as a bug report. I have confirmed this on other projects, that this happens when switching configs on other projects, so it's not just a weird thing that happens in WizardDucks. But I don't want to spend the time opening this and crashing GameMaker a bunch of times in other projects to just communicate the point, so you'll have to take my word for that. Once again, when you're isolating the problem of what you think is a bug that needs to be reported, it sometimes takes a little bit of creativity. So I'm just going to submit the entire project as a YYZ as an example project. I don't really expect them to have to look through all like 40-odd thousand lines of code in here. Just them opening the project on 2022-9 and clicking through the configs rapidly should communicate the point fairly easily. So that's going to be WizardXPuzzles.yyz. This is going to take a longer time to compress because there's so much more of it than the other one. And while it's doing that, I can go back to the contact us page. Let's go to report a bug in GameMaker. This is going to be a bug in the UI or IDE, which is fun. I see there's more of them here in this headline known issues window. However, I don't see anything related to configs, which is interesting. Once again, I do happen to know that this issue is solved in beta. But for the sake of argument, let's go to I still need to report a bug. This is 22.9 stable. It's not really crashed to the IDE, is it? I'm going to try and be precise in this. Switching configs quickly causes the IDE to freeze, is I think more accurate. The description, as you can imagine, it does definitely help if you can be as precise as possible when it comes to reporting these bugs. Try not to say anything vague like the game crashes. Try to describe all the steps that leads up to the crash. Try to, if there's any specific conditions required for the problem to happen, describe those. Clicking the close button brings up the close project dialog as usual, but the dialog will be unresponsive. The only way to close GameMaker from here will be via the task manager. So hopefully that is the sort of specific report which would allow whoever reads this report to take action quickly. But that's going to be in their hands now. Like with the runtime errors, there's a whole category here. I'm going to go and I'm going to call this an IDE crash. Again, it's not a full crash, rather just the IDE just freezes. But I think that's the closest option there is. My operating system is Windows 10. Platform this problem affects. I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure why for IDE reports this option is here, because we're not building for a platform, we're just running the IDE on our computer. Maybe it had to do with the debugger or something like that. Then in that case, never mind. Upload GameMaker's UI.log file. This is a case where having the UI log file would actually be helpful. I'm actually curious if there's anything interesting in it. So this is actually, the reason that this is so big, the reason that this log is 400 kilobytes is because this is actually the log going back several days. But the stuff that we're interested in is going to be at the bottom. And if you know what you're looking for, you might be able to find a line of interest. For example, this one, trying to deactivate an unregistered module, which appears to be the cause of the crash. There's also an exception that shows up, which may or may not be related. Anyway, Yoyo Games can look at that when they open the log. The compiler log is optional when it comes to reporting IDE issues, because that's not always relevant. I'm going to be skipping it for now. Upload your sample project. For me, that is going to be this one. The file must not exceed 20 megabytes. Well, in that case, let me go look for a project I have with multiple configs that's big enough that you could click on like the config window before it has time to finish analyzing. Alright, that project is almost all code, no graphics, no audio, so that one's about 6 megabytes. Okay, that's the wrong button. Upload screenshots if you want. This is a case where uploading a screenshot may actually help. If I were to, for example, induce the bug again by clicking quickly, actually, I was hoping I could get it in a state where, like, multiple options were highlighted at a time and it was stuck in the analyzing window, but that one happened too fast. Let's see, if I were to... I think I've done it. If I were to get this one stuck, I can go and take myself a little print screen, and I can go and copy that into Microsoft Paint or something, save this. Let's call that IDE freeze, and now I can go and upload the screenshot of the issue. So that's going to be down here. IDE freeze.png. Everything looked good. I think everything for this report looks good. And from here you can submit it. And it's going to take a moment. And it's going to upload the relevant files. And that is our bug report. You rejected the UI log. That's cool. This video is really living up to the promise, isn't it? Not only am I reporting bugs in GameMaker, but I also found a way to crash Task Manager, and now the website just randomly rejected one of the file uploads. That's great. Well, I suppose that that does lead us into some other things that we can do. If you go to the actual Yoyo Games help desk, which is sort of like a different site, kind of, from the regular GameMaker.io, if you were to sign in, and you don't actually have to sign in if you're signed into the main site, it'll just automatically sign you in from there, and it's a very weird system, but I guess it works. So if you go to your requests, we can have a list of all the things you've reported. As you can see, I have quite a lot of them, because I have no life, and the bugs, they just appear in front of me. If we click on our relevant issue, we can see some more information about it, about the report. And if you want to upload a file for real, where was it? It was the UI log, wasn't it? It's going to be here. It is now slightly bigger because I run the IDE and crashed it several more times since then. And we can say something helpful like, the UI log didn't upload the first time for some reason, and now the UI log is attached, so that's fun. I swear this video is supposed to be helpful and not like a huge joke, comedy of errors sort of thing. Anyway, that's reporting a bug in GameMaker. One more thing of note, if you want to request a GameMaker feature, you can do that from here. And I'm not going to do this now. I don't have anything really in mind that I want to request, but very much the same thing applies as to regular bug reports. When you do a feature request, you have to write a summary. You have to write a description of what you're trying to get added to GameMaker, as well as provide some justification for it. You can't just say that, like, I want 3D stuff in GameMaker because 3D stuff is cool. You have to provide a explanation of exactly why that is a change that you need to have made to GameMaker. In terms of GameMaker triage, how Yoyo Games decides what stuff actually does get added, Yoyo Games has no shortage of things they want to add to the engine, and the likelihood of a feature that you request being accepted and making it into GameMaker is based on a few things, as you can probably imagine. The simplicity of the request obviously has a lot to do with it. Yoyo Games is more likely to act on a simple request more quickly than a long and complex request. So if you have, for example, a string-related function or a math function that you'd like to see built into the engine, that is something that is more likely to make it in than asking for example, a 3D room editor. A 3D room editor is probably the most extreme example possible. There's definitely no shortage of people asking for such a thing on the forums and stuff, but it would also require basically rewriting the entire IDE. This is still spinning. Such a thing would also require rewriting the entire IDE in a lot of ways, and that makes the likelihood of such a thing being added in the near future very, very low. So all that is to say that feel free to request GameMaker features through here, but don't be disappointed or surprised if they say no, or if it's something that is not a priority. I'm going to end this off here. My name is Michael. I like Wizards and Dragons and making games. I hope this video comes out well, because I can't exactly do a redo on this one if I don't want to like really annoy whoever happens to be checking the QA inbox tomorrow morning. I hope you found this useful. I think a lot of people don't realize that if they find a bug in the engine, like what to do about it. And I think a lot of people either don't realize that this is a thing that they can do in the first place, and then instead they just go on Discord and complain, or go on the subreddit and complain or whatever, and that's great, but we can't do anything about it there. And also, I think a lot of people maybe aren't sure how to write a good description for a bug report in GameMaker, and how having a lot of specific information in your reports will definitely make it a lot easier for Yoyo Games to figure out what to do with you. Anyway, I try to post about 2 game dev videos a week, 1 tutorial. Usually they're not quite as meta as this, and 1 Let's Make a Game, currently Bullet Hell. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute to the channel, links to that can be found in all the usual places. Otherwise, I hope you all got something out of this, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Army Armbuster, DJ Gibbles, Edward Holt, GameMaker, Harold Gidry, Kiexi, Syndra Larson, Squarecrow, The Oz, and Zengerman for supporting these videos. If you want to contribute to the channel, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.